Hi, everyone. My name's Anthony Ruggiano, and in 1988, I was struggling with addiction, and I went into a treatment center. I set up a helpline number, which is 855-963-2113. That's 855-963-2113. That number, phones will be manned 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you're struggling with addiction, or you know someone that is struggling with addiction, please call that number and let me help. I will be hands-on. I will be personally involved in the person's recovery. They will meet me. They will spend time with me, and I will help them live a life beyond their wildest dreams. So please, if you know anybody that has a problem with addiction, or you yourself have a problem with addiction, please call that number and let me help. And also help their family members or friends. Please call that number, 855-963-2113. That's 855-963-2113.
Yeah, hi. This is Roland. Pleasure to talk to you.
Hey, Roland, how are you?
Good. I'm on California. Did you ever know Albert Mayon?
Which one? There's 9 of them.
Oh, okay.
Which one?
I guess it was Happy's brother.
Happy's
or
brother,
like that,
yeah,
right?
I know him well. Yeah, I know the whole every Maione. I married a Maione. I married his
Okay.
niece. Yeah, my first wife was Alice Maione. She
Okay.
was Albert was her great uncle. So Albert, Albert, Happy Mayone's father was named Albert.
Okay.
And then Albert was Happy's brother, and then there's so many Alberts. Even to this day, there's still Alberts. There was just another Albert Mayone born last year. So there's a lot, yeah, but I knew him well. Yeah. His sister Jenny Maione, her son Lenny baptized me. So I know the family well. I was married to one.
Okay. And was he a made man, or was he?
No. The only one that was made in the Maione family was Harry and my wife's father, the Duke, Louis Maione.
Louis, okay.
The only 2 that were made. Louis the Duke was his nickname, and Happy were the only 2 that were ever made members. But they were all involved. Like Albert was with my father. He was a major bookmaker. Albert Shylock, he was all mobbed up. He should have. He should have been made, but he never did get made. He should have been made. But no, the only 2 that were officially made members was Harry and the Duke Louis.
Okay. And was he friends with, or was he tight with Nikki Carazzo and?
Oh yeah, sure.
And Lenny and all those guys, yeah. Because the reason I was asking is I knew somebody. I'm sure you hear a lot of this. Oh yeah, I knew someone from back in the day, whatever. But someone was telling me a story where they used to be like a little a waiter in like some kind of underground club, and he said that when he was a waiter in the club, Nikki and Lenny ran the club back then.
Yeah, sure. They were very close, very tight. Yeah, because they all came from the same neighborhood. Actually, Albert Mayone was the person who brought my father to Charlie Wagons when my father was robbing the poker games. Albert was the person that Charlie reached out to find out who this kid Andy was. And Albert is the one that brought my father to them.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, they're definitely were together their whole lives.
Where's Lenny at these days?
Lenny DiMaria? Oh, I don't know. Probably around somewhere selling swag. Why are you from? Are you from East New York?
No, I'm from California, but this one of my buddies though, he was from New York, and so he was the one that was telling me that.
Why, a buddy out there in California?
What's that?
A buddy out there in California?
Yeah.
His name Anthony?
No. No, he just he back in the day he grew up in New York, and he said that he was like a little waiter in one of them bars, one of them underground clubs.
Yeah, after-hour clubs.
Yeah. So I figured, and then when I heard your podcast talking about Nikki Carazzo and Lenny, and then I never knew they were associated with your dad either. So they kind of put them all.
My father, they were originally with my father from when they were teenagers. My father proposed them to become members.
Wow, interesting. Yeah. That's a great story. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. That's a good question. How did I manage the chaos in the street after I got out of treatment? Was I stopped staying with people that were using. I wouldn't I made appointments in diners. I stopped hanging out in bars and clubs in the beginning. If I had an appointment and someone wanted to meet me in a bar, I met them in a diner or a restaurant. And I just refused to use. I made meetings. I went to a lot of meetings. I worked the program, and I just, I just fought the feeling. I mean, just because I felt like doing something doesn't mean I had to do it. I just didn't use no matter what. And eventually it got a lot easier. So, people, places, and things, I couldn't avoid the chaos. I lived in New York City. So wherever I went, it was there. I mean, on every street corner. When did my father get his nickname? That's a good question. He got his nickname when he was young. I don't really know who gave him his nickname. I think it was a general thing, but he didn't mind it. I mean, nobody ever called him Fat Andy, but he didn't mind it at all. He got a kick out of it. And he had two wardrobes, a fat wardrobe and a skinny wardrobe. So because he would go get a bug once in a while, and he would go on like a crazy diet and lose like all kinds of weight. So instead of him keep buying new clothes, he would have a skinny wardrobe and a fat wardrobe. But he didn't mind the nickname. He got a kick out of it. But I think he got it when he was in his 20s, when he started putting on a lot of weight. That was just what people started referring to him as, because his real name is Anthony, and how he got his name Andy was my aunt. When he was born, my aunt didn't like people calling him Tony, so she started calling him Andy, and that's stuck with him. My nickname was really, people used to call me Rouge because my last name was Ruggiano. So most of the time, I was called Rouge. And anybody today that calls me Rouge knows me like over 50 years. That was just something. Even my friend's parents called me Rouge. That was just what people called me because of my last name.
Yeah, I'm coming up on 6 months sober.
Good for you. Congratulations.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of not a fan of what he does, but I've been following your dad for many years, in the documentaries and the books and everything.
Thank you.
He's one of my favorite people to read about and watch the movies, And I had a couple of questions since I'm on here. I had one of them was what was the most important sit down that you ever attended? And then Queens is one of my favorite. I'm not from New York, I'm from California, but like in the movies and the folklore and everything, Queens is probably my favorite borough to learn about. So how is Queens different from the other boroughs with related to the mafia and everything?
Well, the most important sit down I ever went on was in 1977, was when my brother, unfortunately, one of my brother's best friend was killed in 88th Street Park by members of the Colombo family. And we had to sit down with them in Brooklyn in Jimmy Brown's club. He was a captain in the Gambino family. And Paul Castellano was there, and we had to go there and have a sit down over the incident that happened. And that was probably the toughest and the hardest sit down I ever went on, because it was, involved someone that I cared about that, was dead. So that was probably the most important sit down I went on. But I went on so many sit downs. Another important was I sat down with the Lucchese family over a fella that was with us. They were trying to steal him from us. They were trying to claim him. And I had to sit down with them, and I won that decision. That was a big decision. Another big sit down I went on was over my vending company. I had to sit down with the Genovese family, with Ronnie One Arm, sat down with me. He was a captain, and we sat down with the Genovese family, and and that was a good one because they tried to steal the whole company, and I had to and at the end of the sit down, we agreed to go partners, but I controlled the company. They just got money. I controlled the company. They had no say in the company, but they got half the money, which was a good deal for them because I had to do all the work. But that's how I wanted it. So those are probably the major sit downs I went on. But like I said, I went on a lot that pertained to me, and I went on a lot with my father just to be there. He was sitting down for other members of his crew. See, Queens is the biggest the biggest land mass out of all the 5 boroughs. And there's so many different neighborhoods in Queens. So you got so many crews in Queens. But really, Brooklyn and Queens and the Bronx have probably the most crews, clubs, social clubs, the most neighborhoods where the wise guys hung out. Now it's all gone now. New York there's no more clubs. I don't even know where the wise guys hang out anymore. They probably, I don't know what they do anymore.
Yeah, I heard there was a lot of social clubs right there. Kind of, I think it's like on the border of Brooklyn and Queens, maybe like Liberty Avenue.
That's where I live. That's my neighborhood. Yeah, that's my neighborhood. Is like my neighborhood's right on the borderline, right? So one side is city line is Brooklyn, and then the other side starts Ozone Park. So there's clubs up and down East New York. My father, everybody in East New York migrated into Queens. Like if you, in my where I live, you can live on one side of the street and you're in Queens, and the other side of the street you're in Brooklyn. Like that's where the. But yeah, every crew had a club. In my neighborhood, in Ozone Park, every crew had a club. Every family had clubs. Some had 2 clubs. Some had more. My father had, the Gambinos had 3 clubs. They had Jojo Carazzo had a club on 77th Street. My father had a club on 81st Street, and John Gotti had the Burger and Fish Club on 101st Street. So those were 3 clubs that just the Gambinos had. Then you had Ciro Perone. He was in the Genovese crew. Then you had Vinny Asara. He was in the Banana Crew. He had a club. I mean, there was clubs on every corner when I was a kid, and they all cooked. They all cooked in them. You could go to each club and eat a meal.
Who had the best food?
We did. My father did. Like, what do I gonna say? I can't say. My father and Tony Lee had the best food. John had good food too on Saturdays. When John became the boss and he started having lunch in his club, he had a good cook. Because he ate lunch every Friday, every Saturday afternoon in his club on the Burger and Fish Club. He had a good cook. But, it was all peasant food. It was all, pasta, meats, pasta. It wasn't nothing, fancy. It was all peasant stuff. All home cooking, that you would eat home. Pasta and peas, delicious food.
I had just a couple more questions. Back to Tommy Aggro. I guess he was always sound like a pretty interesting character because, I remember seeing some documentary about Joe Dogs and Tommy Aggro. He just looked so mean, with this. And I always thought he might have had a wig on because his hair looked kind of crazy.
He did.
And there's, there's all these. You wonder if it's myth or not. They said he walked around with scissors and he would stab people with scissors as they made him mad, or,
He was a hothead. I never saw him do anything like that. I saw him blow his top a lot verbally. He was. I mean, he had that kind of a personality that he would do that. Stick a pencil in your face, get angry, bite you. You know what I mean? He was that type of guy. He was very, very, he was like a volcano.
And was he involved in the killings of both the DeSimone brothers?
No.
Oh, okay.
Bobby wasn't murdered.
Bobby wasn't murdered. Okay.
No.
For some reason,
Bobby, I believe, is still alive to this day. Bobby was a nice guy. I knew Bobby well. I knew Tommy well too, but I hung out with Bobby down in Florida, before he went to prison with my father. After he got out of prison, I really didn't see much of him anymore.
Yeah, and once again, you read stuff on the internet, then you don't know where it comes from.
I mean, I'm not saying he didn't do that. He was that type of guy that he would have done that. He had that kind of personality, that kind of anger, where he would erupt like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if he did do it.
It'd be great to hear sometime you do a recipe on your dad's sausage and peppers.
Excuse me? My father's sausage and peppers.
Yeah.
My father made good sausage and peppers. My father's best dish was pasta azul. He had a secret that he took to the grave with him, but I think I found out at the end he used to put chunks of pepperoni in it.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, he was a good cook, my father. So was his partner, Tony Lee. He was a good cook too.
That sounds, I remember you were talking about that Christmas episode. You're talking about eating hoagies and salt and peppers. That was really cool.
Yeah, at midnight we used to eat sausage. We ate fish earlier at Christmas Eve, and then at midnight we'd eat sausage and peppers. That was like a tradition. Yeah. You couldn't eat meat till after 12.
Oh, hang on. One question. What was Ronnie One-Arm on the street? What was he like?
He was one of my best friends. I love Ronnie One-Arm. Ronnie One-Arm, he was for a guy, he was tough. He was that one arm never stopped him from doing anything. He used to play basketball. I mean, he had a lot of girlfriends. The girls loved him. He always had a gun on him. He was a good guy, very generous guy, dangerous guy. He was a gangster. He was a gangster. He was a tough kid, stand-up kid, tough. He's doing life now, unfortunately, in prison, Tough kid, always looked out for me and my family. I was very, very close with Ronnie. Tough. I mean, he always, I mean, you know, he almost got killed one night. He was getting stabbed up, and, you know, thank God he had a gun on him that night, and he shot one of them, and they gave him his last rites. I mean, you know, he was a street guy. And you know how he had the one arm is because when he was a kid, he got hit by a car, and he got hit by a car, and his arm stopped developing, and he was such a bad kid, his parents couldn't get him to go to therapy, and his arm never developed. It was like a short arm, and he used to tuck it in his pocket. But it never stopped him from doing anything. I mean, with that one arm, he smoked, he lit cigarettes, he played basketball. I mean, he played basketball with us. I mean, he did everything. He did everything and hit like a mule with it too. Forget it. He hit you with that one arm, you were gone. It's a shame what happened to Ronnie one arm. But he's dangerous. You know, he was dangerous. He was a dangerous guy. He was a dangerous person.
Comment, sorry, was did you hear that they caught the one of the last old Cosa Nostra guys in Sicily?
I saw that today. Yeah, he's been on the lam for 20 years from Sicily.
Yeah.
Yeah, they caught him right back in Palermo. I mean, he was hiding in plain sight. Yeah.
Listen, he was one of Totorina's proteges, supposedly.
Yeah, once they get you on that hit list, that's it. The government. I mean, as far, you know, with me, the FBI, like, they're like a dog with a bone. They're not going to let go of that bone until it's gone, you know? So once they put you on that hit list, you're finished. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. See you soon. Stay safe.